So recently in the My Hero Academia anime, we got to a really like exciting scene that has been kind of making its rounds on TikTok and social media. And it features gentle criminal, and this scene, while first of all just being absolutely awesomely animated, and just kudos to everyone involved in making it, also really demonstrates what I think is my favorite trope in the superhero genre, and one that I don't think really gets represented as much as it should for as one good as it is, and also how essential I feel like it is to superheroes, especially like in the West in general. And I think it's an element of superheroes that Horikoshi, the writer of My Hero Academia, really understands way better than most people who are like currently writing comics and movies for superheroes over here in the United States. And that trope is really just people being inspired to be good. Kind of a vague way to say it, but there's this part in Gentle Criminal's speech where he's talking about how he was inspired by Deku's good nature. How Deku's like main motivation was just to watch, to help people smile, and how like pure of a person Deku is. So after fighting Deku and realizing what a good person Deku is, and eventually getting arrested, Gentle Criminal goes on. He gets arrested, but then when the villain breakout happens, he single-handedly saves the world. He stops the UA island, floating island, from crashing, and that ends up being like a very pivotal moment in the fight because with that ground hitting, like if it hit the earth, then Shigaraki would be able to very easily do the damage and endanger civilians. So the superheroes wouldn't really be capable of preventing that. And it really goes to show that Deku is, in my opinion, one of the best protagonists for his series. I think he really represents, and it's a part of his journey as well, but like what it means to be a superhero, in a way that's pure and, in my opinion, like very comparable to Superman. Right? There's like this big motif in My Hero Academia about heroes smiling and inspiring others to do good work. Right? The whole thing about like All Might being a symbol of peace. Right? Where he is kind of this bastion that stands above the society and prevents it from falling into chaos. People look up to him, they are inspired by him, and also they feel safe around him. And Deku, tries to emulate this when he inherits One for All, or yeah, One for All, and you can see it, especially with Gentle Criminals, scene, and it's just it honestly gives me goosebumps seeing it because it's just exactly everything I've ever wanted out of like superhero media. It's simple and it's in a sense kind of cheesy, but it's also so pure. And I think that there's a lot of, how do you say, dislike in the anime community for Deku as a protagonist. They think he's like a very boring character. But I think that as a person who really appreciates the comic book genre and superheroes, I can really understand where Deku as a character is coming from. He is, kind of a quintessential superhero. He is just a good guy, right? And for a lot of people, just having their main character be, just a good dude with a good heart can be, a little boring. And I understand that, but for the role he fills, I think Deku is absolutely perfect for his series. And Deku is definitely not the only example. We have plenty of heroes, and I think for one, we have All Might, who as I said before, he represents something for the superhero society and for society as a whole. He's like a symbol of hope and peace that is supposed to be able to inspire people to live their lives and to not only be better people but also like give them comfort. And this is something that we see in Endeavor's, his personal journey, his growth from going from the number two hero to the number one hero, and how he really starts to recognize the importance of that symbol that All Might was for the people, which we really see at the end of his fight with Haya Nomu. And I think this all just goes to show that Horikoshi is just he's a big nerd and he really gets it. He's talked in depth about how he's inspired by Western comics and superheroes in general. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities between All Might and Superman, but unlike a lot of, I think, the more recent writers that we've gotten for Superman media, Horikoshi like very clearly demonstrates that he gets it. And don't get me wrong, like, I think there can be different interpretations of characters. There's definitely no one correct way to do it, but like in terms of my personal taste, like this is peak superhero. It gives me goosebumps seeing it. It's just everything that I've ever really wanted to see, and I'm so happy that Horikoshi really took this approach when it came to his work, and you can really feel the love emanating out of his work. And this trope does come up often with Superman as well. He is, more than any other superhero, just a huge inspiration for other people, right? He's like a very personable guy. He talks to people on like a very personal level, and also inspires people to do good. We see it both with like normal people and superheroes. Maybe my most notable example would be John Henry Irons, or Steel. He was introduced in 1993, right after the Death of Superman comic. And Steel was basically, so he was an iron worker, or I guess like a construction worker, and he fell off trying to save somebody one day. And Superman caught him, and Steel just said to him, like, thank you so much, Superman, I owe you my life. And Superman responds, then make it count for something, right? Just like a very simple sentence, kind of almost like a throwaway line. But for John Steel, Superman he's like such a symbol, such a good dude, and it inspired him to go on to like make his own suit of armor and become Steel, like his own, I guess, version of Superman, and go around saving people. Like, that's the kind of person Superman is. And I think I'll probably make a video on this later, but Steel is a character that I think could really help the DC Superman movies go in the right direction, because he's a character that really like encapsulates what Superman is and why what Superman does is so important, right? Like, obviously pretty important that Superman goes around stopping the criminals, the bad guys, the alien invasions and such. But more importantly, he is in some sense kind of like his own bastion in his society. He's like a symbol for the people to follow, to look up to, and he really does just inspire people to do the right thing. And I think that's kind of the best and most wholesome thing about Superman, and why he's my favorite superhero by far. I think in that way, he is kind of like the purest expression of what a superhero can be. Not just somebody who saves lives, but somebody who inspires other people to save lives, to engage in volunteer work, to make the world a better place in any capacity they can. Because even at the end of the day, even if Superman didn't have his superpowers, you just know by the way he acts, the way he talks, he would do everything in his power to just make the world a better place. And honestly, it's just so heartwarming, and I can't say it enough. So heartwarming to see a writer who really gets it and really adapts it into his work. I think My Hero Academia is going to go down as one of my favorite works of any superhero media ever. Even though it's not like a super conventional one, I just think that he's a writer that gets it. And at this point, I'm just rambling, but that's all I have to say. Hope we can probably see more stuff like this, especially if My Hero Academia kind of blows up in popularity. Maybe some of these Western writers will really kind of understand and return to the roots of what exactly makes superheroes so great.